Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, microphone.
Yeah, let's do that. Good morning. I'm Don Frederickson from Unity of Springfield Church, and I'm here to outline a few principles from Dr. Dispenza's book. This one. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Sounds like an unusual title, but that's not the sort of thing that he was talking about. Usually, when you're given the idea of being yourself, it's usually for the first time you meet your mother-in-law, or when you go for an interview, and that's usually good advice. Just relax and enjoy yourself. But this is not the sort of thing that Dr. Dispenza is talking about. He's talking more about there's always something in your personality that you would like to change. Something that's less than desirable. It might be judgmentalism. It might be a feeling of being unworthy. It could be anything. And we all have something to work on. And so, before we get started here, I'd like to ask something of you. I'd like for you to, in your imagination, your memories, find a most delightful thought, experience, person, place, or thing in your entire life. See if you can conjure up one, something that makes your heart sing. Just take a couple of minutes and find that thought, and then just hold it. Because somewhere in this process, you're going to need it. Okay? Just take a minute and do that. And while you do that, I'll regain my composure. Just anything at all. Whether it really happened or whether it really exists, don't worry about it. It's just something that makes you sing in your heart. Are you ready?
Ready.
Good. In chapter 2, 3, and 4, maybe even 5, Dr. Dispenza notes that there are 3 elements that we have to, where we should be cognizant of when it comes to trying to make any changes in our life. And that is what he calls the big 3. It's environment, our bodies, if I can find the other one. I'm a little nervous.
We're friends.
Yeah,
We're all friendly, Don.
talking about our bodies first. We have a habit of engaging in negative attitudes. We don't like this, we don't like that. And so our habit gets to be, when that subject comes up, those thoughts are automatically there. And it's like having a dictating machine in the back of your mind telling you what you're going to be saying when you hear those things. lose my place. Anyway, that's those things add to the enzymes that cause heartburn, that cause negative thoughts to be presented. It's just a negative that we should be aware of. About time is the other one that I missed a while ago. Our normal mode of talking about time, of course, is past, present, and future, flowing in that direction. And so we think we don't give the present very much attention. But nothing really happens except in the present. We can waste a lot of time talking about the future, wishing something would happen, which is non-productive. We can talk about the past and nostalgia. Again, it's not very productive. And so we have to remember that what we're talking, whatever happens, whether you're talking about the past or present, or past or future, it's in the present. Everything happens now. The one of the things that he talks about is the fact that science has made so many adjustments in the past, in the recent past, that we used to think that what we thought about, what we engaged in, what our attitudes were, had no effect on our bodies. But of course, this is being proven fallacious for a long time now. Especially in the last 10 years. They used to say that if your father had tuberculosis, you probably would be subjected to that too. Or cancer, or any of those things. But that's, since in the last 10 years, epigenetics has come into being. And like Sue told us last week, you can turn that off and on with your attitudes, with your experiences, with anything that happens to you, whether your parents had it or not, whether your grandparents had it or not, it doesn't make any difference. It's how you attract life, what happens to you. Those things are almost irrefutable these days. Now we can get a little closer to meditation. We want to talk about what happens when meditation happens. What happens in the brain? Yeah.
It slows down the mind.
It closes it down, right. But it's a question of when and how. When we're born, we have a frequency in our brain somewhere between 0 and 2 hertz. Just barely juggling along. And it's strictly subconscious. There is no conscious thought going on in a baby's head. At least for the first 2 years. They're just, everything is impression. They respond to love. They respond to hate. They respond to neglect. They respond to anything that comes their way. They have no control. By age 2 and 5, their frequency has gone up to about 8. And they are then beginning, this is still the alpha state, and it's very impressionable still, and they're only beginning to have a few cognitive thoughts. By age 12, the frequency has gone up to a 15 hertz, 15 cycles per second, and it's called the low beta. And it's what happens to us even as adults when we're calm, we're collected, we're enjoying ourselves. But you put us in a classroom or put us in a place where we have to use our brain, and we automatically go up to 25 because we're trying to focus on something. And this is a normal place that we spend our lives, around 25. It's called the mid-beta. And this is normal. But if you put us into a life-threatening situation, a fight or flight situation, we go up as high as 50 hertz. Now we can maintain that for a while, but if we try to maintain it very long, it becomes destructive, very destructive. I think that's why many soldiers come back to us, having been subjected to that kind of thing, and they have mental problems, or at least emotional problems, that can stay with them for the rest of their lives. Another case against war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just the scale in which we operate. All right. Now, when you think of what our senses do for us, they are mostly visual. If you close your eyes right now, you've cut out 80% of your sensory perception. That's 80%. And then when this puts us into about, if we stay there, it puts us into about a frequency of about 8. Just halfway in between high and low, and we're ready to, we're ready and willing, hopefully, to go into meditation. In fact, as you relax and allow it, the physical world just kind of fades away. Not completely, but relaxation helps so much from that closing your eyes, the next is relaxation, and then the next idea is what we call induction. We try to induce ourselves to go a little lower, to where the world just doesn't matter anymore. It's a kind of a state of acceptance. I think I might have gotten these in the wrong. Oh, all right. If anybody anybody is interested in this little chart I have of the frequencies and the states of mind, you can pick one up after the talk. I didn't want you to be just.
Do you have extra copies then, Don?
Huh?
Do you have extra copies?
I have about 12.
Okay.
15,
Well, that
yeah.
sounds-
That's fine. Do you want me to pass them out?
If you like, yeah.
He wants to distract, he doesn't want to be distracted, Paul.
That's okay. Oh, okay. You're probably anyway.
Yeah, we're
We're up in the 12 to 15 range now, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Something to find.
Here, Wendy.
So I wonder,
It's not on, sorry, I forgot to turn it on. Push it up there.
so I wondered if he had said anything about people who have lived in a hypervigilant state.
Mhm.
It's extremely difficult to bring your mind out of that. Even, like they say, meditate and quiet your mind. And my experience with others that have done that, and with my own mind, it's almost like once you reach that hypervigilant, overstimulated place, it's almost like it's broken to shut down.
Yes.
You stay in that. So is what he's talking about here a way of reversing that?
It's easier for some people than it is to others because they have a history that won't let them be, it won't let them concentrate or won't let them relax enough to be hypnotized or to be, to have an experimental, an experience of an experience of meditation. Did you need something? Did you have something?
Finish what you're saying.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that with a lot of folks who have gotten into the hypervigilant state for
Uh-huh.
a long time, that while they're trying to relax, if they relax past a certain point, it jerks them right back up into the hypervigilance because it doesn't feel safe relaxing. So it's like there's just a narrow range of that is available to them.
To add to, oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
not to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Okay, just to add to that thought, it feels like their normal and their balanced state is so high at that point that anything below that feels unnatural and, like you were saying, incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is. I seem to have gotten my page out of place here, and I apologize for that.
Well, you're finding that. It's one of the things, if you notice with me, like when I'm in a class or I'm in something like that, I am doing something with my hands, and that actually allows me to relax and participate and listen and go out of that hypervigilant. I give that part of my brain something to do, and it helps me.
I'm really excited that you said that. I'm a teacher, and there's a lot of research that supports what you're saying. Having some kind of task that you don't necessarily have to think a lot about, but you can be kind of passively but yet actively doing something, kind of helps your brain not go into those heightened states. It just kind of helps it focus in. So yeah, great point.
Now let's talk about space. That's what we're here for. This preliminary stuff was to get you to talk about what's happening in your mind. Now let's talk about space. That's what we're here for. All right. Does anybody know what a hydrogen atom looks like?
What a what atom?
A hydrogen atom.
Oh, hydrogen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Teacher would, yeah. All right. What we have is a nucleus of a proton, a little bit of something. a little particle. And around that particle, there's an electron, just one, because it's the most simple atom in the whole chart. But how much of that atom is space? And how much, if any atom, is space? You know, we're all made up of atoms, so this is very pertinent to what we experience. Let's picture first the point of a needle, and then take that needle down, that point, take it down in your imagination a million times smaller than that needle point. Okay? That's about where the atom, where the atomic part is. Or at least we can imagine it is. Now, bring it back to this normal size. The point of the needle, then expand that needle to the size of a pea, little pea like that, a green pea, and just set that aside. Now let's think about that as our nucleus, our imaginary nucleus, so we can think about it in terms that we can relate to. Now, imagine a map that is 250 miles across, like the distance from here to Kansas City, from Kansas City to Des Moines, from here to St. Joseph north 250 miles, and then back to Des Moines. Okay? That's 62,000 square miles. Now, if you put a little X in between those points, those corners, you have a center. You put your little P in the center of that. That's the proportion of space to the nucleus. That's how big the atom is compared to the nucleus. Now that let's take a bigger one. Let's take uranium, 238. 238 little neutrons and protons in the middle. Think of how big that space is going to be. Everything is bigger than a hydrogen atom. So, as you start getting a feeling for all this space, you can see how majestic, how magical our senses are. We can make sense out of that stuff. All that space and that little tiny bit of matter is what we're seeing as solid stuff. This little electron that's floating around is about a little less than 1/2000th of the mass of the electron, of the proton. So it's out there someplace in that 62,000 square miles, whirling around someplace. Nobody knows where it is. It's in a cloud. It's an electron cloud, and it's so nebulous that we used to think it was a particle, but it's not. It's an energy of some sort. Anyway, it's putting it arithmetically, it's 99.00000% energy and 0 0.00001% particle. So there's no comparison really of mass to space. That's just the way the universe is made. So we take that little, we're working with that little bit of matter now in our senses, and we're we're using only 5% of our brain, this part, 5% of our brain to make sense out of it. And so we have a little window to look with a little, even smaller portion of brain to make it make sense. So it's almost incomprehensible. Now we have 95% of our consciousness is subconscious. What we do with our conscious is we think and we make decisions and we weigh and we estimate. But the decision finally depends on what's in our subconscious mind. What's our attitude towards it? Do we like it? We don't like it. Do we support it? Do we have a negative feeling about it? Do we like it? It's all depends on what our expectations are too. And so as we focus on this space, it's our scientists tell us they've just recently understood that one of the ways into the subconscious is by taking our attention away from matter, away from our bodies, away from the concept that we have of our bodies, and bringing it out into space, that immense space. Everything seems to be mostly space. So we have to meditate in space. There's no choice. We are in space. Everything is in space. We are space, mostly, because all of our atoms are, all of our body is made up of these atoms that are mostly space. It sounds like you have something to say. You want to say, okay, yeah, okay. So, when if you close your eyes now, closing out 80% of what you can sense, and try to think about your nose. How much of your nose is space? Can you think of the density of your nose? Actually, not what you perceive, but actually. Can you perceive, say, your forehead? How much space does your forehead take up? And what's the density of that space? How much space is displaced by your chest, your shoulders, your arms? Remember that you are mostly space, and consider consider the amount of space occupied by your torso. It's all space. What would be its volume? Can you tell the density of how much space is in space? Can you estimate the volume of the space taken up by your lower extremities? How much volume is taken up by the room you occupy? How much of that is space? Imagine how much space of that space is in all of space. Can you imagine the volume of space in the solar system? In space? Can you imagine how much space is in our galaxy? In all of space? And can you imagine what part of the universe itself is space? And how much space is there for the universe to expand into? And how far does that space go? Keeping your eyes closed, think about that space. Now we, as the children of God, are free to wander here in all this space with our minds. For we are, in essence, spirit. And spirit has no bounds. Just as God is spirit and has no bounds. Now that you are set free to soar through God's eternity, what is your fondest heart's desire that has set your heart afire? Give your imagination free rein to fly on this higher plane, to see whatever you longed to see, and to be all that you dare to be. To know all that you would like to know. To become all that you would like to be. And become because God loves you so. Never mind about the how. How would it feel if it were here now? With God, everything is possible. Though evidence may say it is improbable. Now enjoy your own magnificence in the state of God's beneficence. And enjoy your moment here in eternity. And if you remember anything from this little experience, let it be to remember you as a child of God, our spirit, as God is spirit, and you and the Father are one, just as Jesus claimed it for himself. You are a child of God, and you and the Father are one. You are a child of God, and you and the Father are one. No, you need not be in a hurry to open your eyes until you are ready. But when you do, please note how you feel in this moment now. I'd appreciate your reaction to this approach, to the induction of meditation, the alpha state of consciousness, or any suggestions or comments. Thank you.
I just want to say, Don, that.
Does it work? That's what the
I
science does.
felt so relaxed listening to you, and a part of that is, I think, just your voice and your presence. I feel like I'm on a massage table and I've gotten the greatest massage in my life. And so yeah, it actually absolutely brought me down, brought me down's not the word. It took me to a place where I felt so incredibly relaxed.
Good.
And so in touch. I love that feeling of
That's a
feeling the
meditative
oneness.
feeling, isn't it?
It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
I love your concept of space too. I mean, that makes you really think.
Yeah.
You know, even the physical is all mostly space.
And it's an illusion.
It is.
Really. And we've constructed it.
I just want to say thank you, Don. I'm reading that book, and when I was reading about the space, and it didn't make sense to me, but the way that you explained to us right now, I was like, thank you. I got it, and I went, you know, that with the space, because reading it is different than listen to somebody, you know, saying it. So when we were doing the meditation, I like Paul said, I went to that deep space in me that I was afraid to go, because I was a person that, you know, all the time running and doing, you know, like I don't know how to say that, like flying or, you know, in the.
We leave our bodies, don't we?
Yes, thank you. And so for me, going to meditation is a little bit hard sometimes. And I feel like it's the unknown, and I don't want to go there because it's a little bit scared. But right now, for the first time, I think I went surrender. I'm so grateful, Dan. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
But I get lost in space.
It's okay. Yeah.
We're all somewhere in there, aren't we?
That's the point.
We find you.
Yeah, I just want to say that you have an excellent energy about you. I agree, your voice is very soothing.
Well, thank you.
And I'm really grateful to be here and for you to be talking about space, because I hadn't thought about that in a while. And then the meditation brought me to just a really, yeah, I have to admit, I let myself go further into space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep that, by
The
the way.
consciousness goes there, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, just like a happy and relaxed, I don't know, almost, and then you kept saying, you know, that we are one with God, and I like that you kept saying it so I couldn't squirm from it, and it brought me somewhere beautiful, and then when I open my eyes, I just feel love and peace, and let me tell you, those are my two favorite things to feel. So thank you so
That
much.
element that you talked about didn't get in there until last night. I went over this last night, I added that.
You did? Well,
Just for
thank
you.
so
Just for you.
It was just for me. Thank you so much.
It may have been for you, but it was also for us. And that was absolutely amazing.
Oh, good.
One of the concepts of releasing attention is to go into space, and the way you did it was just amazing.
Good.
And it was beautiful.
Okay.
And the explanation that you gave us, I know Nancy missed it, but of the hertz, that was such a good intro to understanding where our minds go, and coming down to that state
You can
that
almost visualize it, can't you?
that we came
Yeah.
into this world with, and that awareness. I had to go. I was in a restaurant the other day, and they had a 2-week-old baby or 6-week-old baby, and I had to go feel that feeling, and I hadn't been around a little tiny baby for a while, and oh my gosh, you can so go into that space with babies.
That's why everybody loves babies, isn't it?
Yeah, because you can go there, and
No personality.
so it was amazing, Don, and you may have been nervous and shaking, but you did an absolutely fabulous job.
I want to apologize for that disorganization.
Oh, you're fine. Don't apologize. You're amazing.
For anybody who's studied in science of mind, there's a concept in there where we have to get back to our God self. There's in order to do certain things here. So I look at it kind of like on Star Trek, the holodeck, okay? And before we came here, we programmed the holodeck that we were going to come in. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with the holodeck, but it's like going into a story and living that. And there are if you take one action, there's all these possibilities that lead you down to another action, to all of these possibilities within the holodeck. But you're limited to the programming of the holodeck as to what you can do. If you're going into the Beowulf story, you have the possibilities within that story. You don't go into a Sherlock Holmes story by making a choice. And one of the things that in Science of Mind it says in order to reprogram the holodeck, you have got to get your mind out of the story, out of the, you can't do it from inside of the holodeck. You've got to come, and if you're familiar with Star Trek, you have to come out of the holodeck and then go to the place where you control the holodeck if you want to change the story, if you want to add something new, or if you want to create a whole new story. So for those of us who are on a journey of beginning to realize how to change the story midstream, how to reprogram, so that we're not just living by the subconscious programming of our childhood and all of that, and to come from our God self. This seems like a really good way of getting back to leave the holodeck, to find the door and open the door so you can go back and reprogram.
Thanks, Don. That was very, very nice, very good. One of the things that it reminds me of is one of my favorite things to do is to climb up on my roof and lay down and look at the stars. And I live several miles out of town, out of the town of Warsaw, and so it's real dark. You can see the Milky Way out there, and I imagine, and today I was imagining when you were doing the meditation, imagining black holes and folds and universes within universes, and it's just, it's really getting lost in space.
It expands your mind, doesn't it?
Yes. And also, with physical space, we can measure volume displacement with water. Is there a way that they measure the non-material space, the non?
I don't think so. We don't know anything about that, because when you think of, when you think about the new idea of dark matter, most of the universe is made up of it. We only see maybe 5% of it. And when you think of dark energy to go with it, the energy is even bigger than the matter. So, and we have no clue, at least as far as I'm concerned, that they might have, since I looked into it, there might have been some additions to it. But the last I heard of it, nobody knew, but we didn't have any words to describe how to approach dark matter, which is most of what's out there. So we're still in the dark.
There's energy in darkness.
I don't know, I don't understand your question, so
Dark matter is just a name that they've given it, Al. Yeah,
it's, and we don't know even how to talk about it.
I'm no authority on any of this, but from things that we've studied and looked at, the way I understand it is the way that they make any conclusions about dark energy or dark matter is because they see that there is something out there that affects matter. And they've determined that the way to the extent that it affects matter, that's how they've determined how much there can be out there. There has to be something out there of that size.
We should only see the effect, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a booger man.
Who knows?
About 2.5 months ago, we watched a series of three CDs, and it talked about our universe, but it also talked about many other universes that we know nothing about at this point. And, you know, all of the possibilities that go with that.
Yeah, it's, they talk about the universe of universes, yeah. And this, they call the cosmos, everything. But we don't even know what everything is.
In the same way that the scientists have come to some conclusions about dark matter and dark energy, even though they really don't know a lot about it, in a way it's very similar to our journey with metaphysics. Many of us, for me at least, and I've seen it happen for others, when you first begin to see metaphysics and the effect that that study and that practice has on your life, at first it doesn't seem to make any sense at all, because we've been taught this is the order of things, this is the order of things. And then as we begin to see that and see the effects of understanding metaphysics and practicing it, it's kind of the same thing. We don't really totally understand it. We just know that if we do certain things, if we change our consciousness, you know, the first time I heard something saying that you're in control of your life and that you don't need to control anything because the world isn't bad and the world isn't dangerous. And I was like, when I heard that, and I knew it was true, but I heard that, I would have screaming arguments. You liar, it's not true, it's not true.